Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to stay again here at the ICD conference. I think it was now 2 or 3 years ago that my last presentation, not in this room. I'm really deeply impressed. New building, everything is fine here, and I think you have already the ability to have good conversations, controversial discussions, debates, and so on, and I will give you some ideas concerning sustainable mobility. I start with some challenges. We all know that there are some mega trends all around the world, especially urbanization and also smog. You see there the situation once again in Beijing, but it's not only in Asian or other city case. In springtime, we have also the smog in Paris. We have traffic jam not only by cars, but also by two-wheelers, for example, here in Taipei. Even in Hawaii, you see their traffic jam. And you see also that not only cars, but also public transportation is really crowded, and you have some problems. I think one of the most important aspects you have to take in your mind is that with this mega trends to mega cities, urban development, more than 60% are already living in these urban agglomerations, and they will increase up to 80–85%. This is, for example, the ratio we have now to observe in South America, Latin America. So we see there already what will happen also in the other parts of the world. All these have enormous influences, enormous impact on the vehicles and the means of transportation. And we will see there, more or less in the next years, a fundamental change, because necessary is especially the accomplishment of huge traffic volumes among these global agglomerations and also within these agglomerations. And therefore, we have to face a lot of key challenges for mobility, as already mentioned, urbanization. And this is also the reason that we have also a strong demand on mobility, and, as already shown in the other pictures, a lack of transport efficiency. Compared with some other impacts, areas, health, energy, resources, climate. So all in all, we all know, especially from the car industry, we are part of the problem, so to speak, but, and I think this is also important, we have to be and we will be part of the solution, and I will bring you some ideas in the next couple of minutes. When you see it from the perspective of a transportation system, then normally you say you can avoid, you can shift, you can improve. All these are effective measurements. There are a division of labor, so to speak, who can do some things. Some will be work a little bit in an earlier time. Others will take long time, long-term effects, for example, the rebuilding of transportation schemes in these agglomerations and cities and so on. Especially the improvement of traffic, the individual mobility is a field of action and the responsibility of our industry, of the car industry. And these are only some pictures, ideas of research cars, of concept cars. Some are in a small number already produced. There you can only have a short impression. We are thinking about these new types of mobility, how we can make sure that mobility will work, not only for the personal transportation, for example, these city cars, full electrified cars, but also more and more important it becomes for the logistics, for the city logistics, because take only one example, e-commerce. I remember very well, I think it was 30–40 years ago, that I have read some studies. They have the expectation that e-commerce will avoid transportation. But what is the result? It's exactly the opposite. We have an enormous increase of city logistics, of freight transportation inside the cities caused by the e-commerce. And therefore, we are thinking also, for example, for automated driving, in this field, because I think this will be one of the most important things we have to solve. All in all, our idea is to transform grants into business value, and this means the integration of technological solutions inside the company, and especially with our products, but also with mobile devices, with the services of mobility. And you may know all of these things are depending on energy, and therefore the most thing, and I will spend a couple of minutes for this, is you can call structural change of the mobility system of the car industry facing the next, let's say, 15, 20 years. Before I come to the relationship between energy and mobility, I will only give you a very brief overview about another mega trend. You can call it connectivity. And this means our cars will learn to see, to communicate, and maybe in the next step to decide. And we are deeply convinced this will have influences on safety, on convenience, on traffic flow management, and on the quality of time. There are a lot of already existing systems inside our cars. This is not the future, this is already the existing reality where we can make use of all these communication systems. And all in all, there is, from our point of view, a strong perspective that these ideas will really also influence not only the individual transportation and the assistance of the driver and so on, but it will also influence the transportation flow in the whole and will be a part of a more effective transportation system facing these problems we already mentioned. Just in the last couple of months, we have an increasing number of articles concerning the automated driving history. Maybe some of you have heard something about the so-called Google car and all these things. From our perspective, this is a part of a development starting by assistant systems, and we can imagine that already in the upcoming future, let's say in the next 10 years, you have also the opportunity for specific distances to drive it in an automated mode, because there are also some advantages concerning this case, but also for the already existing modes. And this is only the idea I've shown in this picture. This is not a complete new idea from Google or wherever else. We are for a long time already working on this field, and we are, I think, able to understand all this if we will meet their customer needs. All in all, I think it will be absolutely necessary not only to improve the individual products, but also the system in the whole, and therefore you need strong communication, and also cooperation, let's say, between these different parts of the transportation system, the vehicles, but also the mobility concepts and the infrastructure. I know experts say we are discussing this, let's say, the last 25 years, and from my own experience, I know it very well because I was part of an already running research project in the late 80s, last century, where we are discussing this automotive driving systems. It takes a little bit time, but we are deeply convinced it will now start and we will face it, let's say, in the next 10, 15 years. I will skip these ideas concerning sustainability, but, sorry, where it is? Oh. There, that's fine. Oh, there's fine. I will now change the perspective coming to sustainability to try to combine these both aspects. From our point of view, we have a really deep chance for setting the course, let's say, in the next year, 2015. Only 3 examples. We have on the one side the German G7 presidency, and the theme is sustainability and qualitative growth. We have also there's the Climate Change Conference in the end of 2015 in Paris, and we all, I think, hope and are working hard to find a new agreement concerning this global climate policy, and we are part of what you call the Sustainability Development Goals. And I will give you a very brief overview that we, from the perspective of a company, of a corporation, are also thinking in this strategic perspectives, and we have started now a strategic discussion. We call it Future Track, and there we are deeply convinced that we have to take in our mind these new trends, not only sustainability, not only climate change, not only the limits of growth and so on, but also, I think this was a part of the presentation just before, the world has completely changed in the last 12 months, and therefore we say that uncertainty will become the new normal, so to speak. And this is important for us, especially as a global company, because we are running locations in more than 40 countries, and we have now 107 locations all around the world, and therefore this is not easy to tackle facing this economic uncertainty on the one side, and the challenges I just mentioned before concerning urbanization, climate change, resource scarcity, and so on. But it's important for us that we have a clear vision, a clear strategic pathway, and we will not only become the most successful and fascinating company, but also the most sustainable automaker. And therefore, we have formulated clear targets concerning the economic leadership, the expansion, for example, of the brand and product portfolio, the creation of sustainable value, but also to become environmental leadership in terms of a diversified portfolio of drivetrain technologies, and especially the leadership in alternative powertrain technologies. And I will only give you a short idea concerning these alternative drivetrain systems, because I think even if we are discussing now that there are only a small portion of fully electrified cars and the market share is very, very low up to now, I think we are just on the starting point. And it is so important, so to speak, from an economic point of view, that we just have now the end, let's say, of the monopoly of the combustion engine. And this is a completely new picture compared to the last 100 years of history of the car industry. And therefore, I think we can have a reluctancy from the perspective of customers concerning e-cars, but you have to take in your mind, we have already invested a tremendous number of euros in the last years, especially concerning e-mobility, hybridization, and so on, and therefore you can be sure that this will succeed in the next 5–10 years. It depends on the velocity, for example, but all in all, I think we will see there really a deeply structural change for the car industry in terms of combustion engines, in terms of technology, and therefore it's so necessary, and this is a picture here, that we are, let's say, already prepared for this change, but also that we have the strength of innovation, the ability of innovation, and therefore it's so necessary that we have a lot of cooperations all with around universities and research institutes all around the world. We have invested, so for example, more than 10.2 billion of research and developments last years, and this is, I think, the most important prerequisite to stay in this very strong competition and, as mentioned, structural change. And I think you have also to take in your mind that we are facing now a complete new picture also concerning the CO2 regulation worldwide. This is only the example for the European targets, but we have also bathing CO2 regulations in America and South America and China and so on. All in all, we are now selling more than 80% of our cars already in markets which are CO2 regulated, so to speak. And therefore, this is not only an idea of crazy German environmentalists or something like this. This is a mega trend global around the world. And the, I think, a strong incentive coming from the European perspective is this will be the first time that we have a strong effort to reach this 95 grams CO2, but we will do it. We see it as a chance, but it is also expensive. For example, up to now, every gram we have to reduce will cost us around about 100,000 million euro, but we have to be able to do this. And very important is we see it as a chance. We see it as a chance concerning the perspective we mentioned earlier, to face these problems, to face these challenges, and therefore, from our point of view, we will see for the next, let's say, 20, 25 years, the strong improvement of these technologies and a kind of an innovation race between these different technologies. We will have take a lot of part of optimizing the existing technologies, the combustion engines, but we will also have the idea to see the more electrification and hybridization, and all this combined with the idea of connectivity I mentioned earlier, I think is a good perspective for a car industry, because as I said at the beginning of my short presentation, we will not only stay as a, let's say, part of the problem. I think we are able, and we will bring it into the market, that we are part of the solution, and therefore we can really not only in urban agglomerations, but also for other modes of transportation, bringing solutions which enables us to have really a perspective of sustainable mobility. Thank you for listening.